Joan Dolan. Can you tell us what the name was that you were born with?
Audrey Eileen Joan Dolan.
Thank you. And when were you born? When was your birthday?
22nd of June 1925.
And whereabouts?
26 Bedford Street, Portsmouth.
Thank you. Can you tell me who your parents were?
My mother was Kate Elizabeth Higgins. Higgins.
And what was your father's name?
William Daniel Dowden.
What did your father do for a living?
He was a labourer in His Majesty's Dockyard, Portsmouth.
Did he have any other jobs at all?
Well, yes, I think when he was younger, several, a jack of all trades type of thing, but never did get a trade of any sort. He was just a labourer. Ended up an agent for the Prudential Company for a short while when he was younger, until he, after the war, the First World War, he went into the dockyard in Portsmouth.
So did your father serve in the First World War?
Yes.
What regiment was he in?
Hampshires.
And did he have any kind of position?
Rank?
What rank was he?
Well, he did have a rank. He did come to sergeant at one time, but sadly, as soon as he got promotion, he disgraced himself and he was demoted. But he never kept the position very long. But what he was a very good at shooting. He was.
So was he a sniper then?
Yes, he was a sniper. Very, very good.
Do you remember what battalion he was in?
In the Hampshires.
Yeah, that's the regiment, but battalion.
Oh.
No,
I wouldn't have known that.
So did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes.
So do you remember what order they came in?
Well, there was William Daniel Arthur. That was my eldest brother. Then there was Sylvia Olive Beatrix, Kathleen Winifred Ina, Gladys Ruby Elsie, Harold George Louis, and Audrey Eileen Joan.
So you were the last of the children then?
Yes.
What, did you have a happy childhood?
As good as any, I suppose, really.
What was it like growing up where you did in Portsmouth?
In narrow streets, no front gardens or little pieces of back gardens, but very small, just enough to put your washing out, and a toilet in the garden.
What did you like doing when you were a child?
Oh, skipping and running all around the streets, chalking on the pavements and getting a good slap for it, playing up the wall. And up the wall was standing on your hands and your legs against the wall. And if you could stand there for quite a while with your head down and your legs up in the air, you were very clever, and everybody thought you were a hero or something. But if your mother came out and caught you, you got a jolly good slap, and and you were sent indoors.
Anything else you like doing? What about your reading?
Oh yes, I could read very, very early in life. Yes, I think I was reading before I went to school.
Can you remember the build up to the war, the Second World War?
The Second World War, oh yes, that was, the whole life was full of rumours, somebody always shouting on and gathering on the corners of streets, and always there was some sort of troubles. There wasn't many fights, but there was a lot of troubles. They did work always having meetings because it was a build up, and people were against the ones that were building up for the Second World War, even though they had such bitter experience in the First World War, but they were still going for and of course this German Hitler that took charge over in Germany after the crush of Germany, he came to the fore, and therefore he built it up, and that brought on the Second World War, because they'd built up their army, were really more or less starting to march over Europe.
Can you actually remember like the outbreak when it was announced that you were?
Oh yes, yes.
Where were you when
the Sunday morning? It was the Sunday morning, and it was 11 o'clock, and it was Neville Chamberlain that gave the announcement. Although we'd have had all this build up to the announcement, but we all had to listen to the radios, because that's all we had was the radios. And at 11 o'clock, Neville Chamberlain announced that he had sent the letters to the German Chancellery, and he'd asked for the reply that they would withdraw their German troops from Poland, and if they didn't, by 11 o'clock, there would be a state of war between Germany and England. And that was the words.
Who were you with when you heard it?
Well, most people were in their houses.
What about you?
Yes, we were in our second room, not the kitchen, in the second room, and we had the wireless in there, and that's when we heard the announcement at 11 o'clock from Neville Chamberlain.
And what was everybody's reactions?
Well, like
in
my
house?
in my
house,
and like, well, what my mother said was, there you are, bloody war again, there you are, casualties all over the place again, as if we didn't have enough. And of course she went off on her, and she had her fork in her hand because she was cooking the Sunday dinner, so she was waving the fork about and saying, there he is, Hitler, there he is, should have put pay to him, all the blah, blah, blah. She was going off. And it was announced.
So do you remember the Battle of Britain at all?
Of course. Oh, not half I wasn't. Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, it started...
Did you witness any dog fights?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It's you just stood up in the air, and sometimes we run to... There were shelters shelters, underground shelters that you could run to. A lot of us stopped running to them, but if it got very heavy, the raids, we did stay in the shelters. And then when 1940, and then it started to get night time, the raids were coming
over. The actual Battle of Britain itself.
The Battle of Britain, yes, I saw it all happen. That's what we did. We walked through the streets just the same. We had to get dinners for the workers. The war didn't stop because Hitler was chucking his bombers down, and there was dogfights with the Battle of Britain and the German planes. What were they called, those German planes? The first ones that but anyway, yes, I saw all the Battle of Britain.
Did any planes come down near where you lived?
Yes, there was one that came down in the poor part. Yeah, in the poor part of Portsmouth, and sadly there was a lot of people killed because there was a lot of houses all huddled together in the poor part, and that was quite a sad thing because the people in the air raid, we had air raid wardens, and we had air raid shelters, so we could go down to the air raid shelters. The air raid wardens would be going down through the streets to see if anyone was injured. We had air raids. That was the Germans' planes came right over and dropped their bombs, and that was very traumatic. When
you saw the the dog fights, did people all come out to watch?
Yes,
were they cheering our side on?
Oh, not half. Oh, yes, we were out the street and shouting and good. Look at them. Yeah, give it to them. That sort of thing.
And did any of your family join the forces?
No, my father was in the dockyard, so he was doing that, and my sister was married and in the country. I went into the land army.
What about your brothers?
No, I had one brother that was a merchant seaman, and that was his. He'd always been a merchant seaman ever since he was 18. So he was on the convoys.
Which convoy was he
Russian
on?
Convoys. He was at first. That was the earliest part of the war, and they really, really did, because we went on the side of Russia, and so we were taking our ammunition to Russia because they had to fight the Germans. So and my brother was on the convoys.
And did he come through the convoys,
yes.
convoys unscathed?
Yes, he did. And
but nothing happened to him then.
No, he was.
I thought he was torpedoed.
Torpedoed, yes.
Well, he wasn't unscathed then.
He wasn't unscathed then. No, he was torpedoed, and then he was sent to another ship.
What happened when he was torpedoed?
He was. He got in a little boat,
Life raft.
Life raft, yes, it would be. Yes, and he was. They were.
How long was he in the life raft?
About a fortnight. because they were up in the Russian seas, and they were very
two
bad.
whole weeks?
Eh?
For 2 whole weeks?
Yeah, they were very. They were big. Some of these, the Russian the boats.
The life raft?
The life, yeah. They're not life rafts as you would think of life rafts about this big, they're big things.
Okay.
Big things.
And what about your other brother? Did he join the forces?
No, he was an engineer in the dockyard.
Did he go? Anybody go into the Home Guard?
Yes, the one that was in the dockyard, because you had to do some other thing besides if you were in the engineer. He was an engineer, and if you were something like that, like doing work that was essential because you got to keep the dockyards working and everything, you had to do air raid.
Where did he go on duty when he was in the Home Guard?
You had to report when you were called up for Home Guard then, because you were already in doing important work in the dockyard and things like that. You had to go to the air raid what would you call it? The air raid centre then, where the air raid wardens were, and they were all given their tin hats and their posts that they had to stand all night, and what nights that they had to stand. So, and they had to do you were duty bound to do an air raid warden's job.
So he wasn't the Home Guard, he was air raid warden.
Well, they were Home Guards, and they had their uniform, which they had to put on, and their tin hat and all the rest of it, and go and stand at some place.
But in the Dad's Army telly programme, there's the Home Guard, and then there's the ARP wardens.
Oh yeah, well we had ARP wardens.
But Bim, was he in the Home Guard?
He was in the Home Guard.
So he wasn't an ARP warden then?
Well, no, not as... Well, you run about just the same as the ARP people had sort of different uniforms, and they put out the fires.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to know what Bim did, that was all.
Well, Bim was in the Home Guard, and so he had he was allotted a place to stand on guard.
Do you know where that was?
Well, I think where was he? Well, there were so many places all over Portsmouth that had to be guarded.
So was he just part of the Portsmouth Home Guard? Was that
just the Portsmouth Home Guard? Okay. But then you see, because he was an engineer during the day.
Yes, yeah.
But he had to. All those that weren't called up.
Yeah, were in the Home Guard.
Were in the Home Guard and would have to do that duty. It might have been 2 duties a week. It might have been 3 duties a week. And they had their tin hat, and then they were.
So when you went into the Land Army, where did you get sent to?
Eastleigh, and sent on a farm in Eastleigh.
Okay, and what was it? A bit of a shock to the system going into the Land Army?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was a bit of a shock, but
Did anything happen to you while you were in the Land
Yes,
Army?
we got machine gunned from the Germans when they were doing their daylight raids. we got machine gunned. When they were doing their daylight raids and their dive bombing, they, the Germans, they come zooming down and all of it. Nobody got hurt.
Did you ever worry what would happen, what might happen to you?
Did I worry a bit? Well, no, I don't think I worried about it because we were doing things all the time. There wasn't time to sit and... Oh, I think one of the Land Army girls, she did cry. She did cry, and we said to her, don't worry about it. It's all right, don't cry. Because the machine gunners, the German machine gunners come down.
So what was the camaraderie like in the community where you lived in Portsmouth?
Oh, very, very good. Everybody helped everybody else. I can't think of anyone that didn't help or didn't...
Is there any particular occasion where the community really came together?
Oh, yes, when those terrible raids, when the terrible raids were on, there was a great community spirit. It's all right, my dear, it's all right, And my father was dragged into somebody's house one day. He come to meet me from work, and he was coming along the shopping where the shops were, and some woman grabbed him just as he was coming to meet me, because my mother had said, go and get her. You don't know what she's, the bombers are about. And some woman dragged him into her shop doorway. She says, get in here, you silly old fool. Look at them up there, shooting and banging like bombs coming down here. Get in here. She said she dragged him into her doorway. But, and he said, no, I'm going to go and meet my daughter. So he says, I've come to... And she said, well, you won't go and meet any daughter if you don't get under the shelter.
What about any other occasion? Like there was the lead up to D-Day.
Oh, wow, that was
just before when they were delayed. The troops were delayed. You told me.
Oh, well, that was quite because we'd had them all packed down into Portsmouth and absolutely packed solid, and because it was delayed, the troops never had any food because it was they were that part. It was all precisely done to march off on that particular day and particular hour, and all the whole streets were absolutely packed solid, and it was all done really.
What was
very
packed solid with?
Packed solid with soldiers and machinery and oh crumbs, every weapon you could think of was down the streets, and we had them outside the door. And don't forget, there was these people, and they were in and out people's houses because they were they had to use their toilets because it was held up. The actual landing to go on board ship was all held up.
So what were your day-to-day living conditions like?
We didn't think they were bad. They were only just really... The food was getting short. Yes, I must say we were having a bit of shortage of food, and some of it was rather peculiar. You didn't know what the sausages were made of. But anyway, whatever.
Do you think you ever went hungry?
No, definitely not. Never. I can't imagine anyone went hungry.
And did you get enough to drink?
Oh, yes. We had... There was always milk for tea, and sometimes tea got a little bit short, and Mother used to say, "Not too much now, not too much. That's got to last until the next ration comes out." So, but otherwise, I can't imagine my mother going without a cup of tea. I can't. No, we were done very, very well. It was really done excellent. So nobody could really grumble that they were hungry. They could grumble that they didn't have enough, but they couldn't grumble that they went hungry. I couldn't think of anybody that went hungry.
Can you tell me describe what just a typical day on the home front would be like?
Oh, well, everything was just ordinary because people had to go to work. Our Sylv had to go to work, and my father had to go to work. So whatever rations we had, my mother sorted them out properly and fairly, and people went off to work. If the raid was on, well, you just get closer to the brick walls and get to work as you can. But we got used to going through the raid. Just got used to running through the raids and keeping under the gutter. The gutters at the top of the buildings, keeping close to the wall. And so you just got used to getting on with life.
Do you remember any particularly funny incidents at all?
There was an old bloke down our street, and he used to, when the raids come over, he had once in his young days had been the one that thumped in the band. He thumped the drums. And so when the raids come over, there's old Carver, that's what we called him, old Carver, that was his name. And we said, he's getting his drums out. And he got his drums out and he was banging away at his drums and happy as Larry. He was happy as Larry. He was very happy and he was all right, sitting on his doorstep, banging his drum. He'd been a bandmaster or something in his young days. So that was him. That's what he did.
So with your father working in the dockyard,
mm-hmm.
he must have seen quite a lot of different sights coming and going due
yes.
to the war.
Yes, he did.
Can you remember any of the tales that he told you?
Well, he said he came home after one of the big raids, and we were getting the worst of the bombing. And he said, my father was saying to my mother, "Oh God, you should see it, Kate. You should see it down there. That they're bringing them ashore as fast as they can, and they're all lined up on the ground. We can't get the ambulance. The ambulances can't get in and out of the dockyard quick enough to keep to let the wounded go into the ambulances. They're all laid out on all up to the gates of the dockyard."
And what was this from
an air raids, from air raids and off the ships, the wounded off the ships.
This wasn't from any particular battle or anything then?
Well,
this was just due to the raids coming over
Portsmouth.
Portsmouth?
Yes, and they're from the ships that were bringing the wounded in, were bringing them in as fast as they could, and they couldn't get them in the ambulances fast enough. There was a turnaround sort of thing, getting them in, getting them loaded, getting them out, and it was really. And they were going out of the dockyard as fast as they were coming in. It was really wonderful. They were really, really wonderful. These people were. They were driving the ambulances with the wounded, getting loaded them on the into the ambulances.
And was that the same sort of thing happened after D-Day?
Yes, oh yes. And of course don't forget Jim's brother was he was one of the ambulance. He was killed in the air raid because he went down the bomb hole, and the other bomb come on top of him, so he was killed.
Was that Charlie?
That was Charlie. Yeah.
So what do you think was the worst thing that happened to you during the war?
It wasn't a great deal that happened to me. I wasn't wounded.
What about that near miss when the Blue Anchor got bombed?
That was I could have said I was as near as made no difference then. That was a tale in itself, because the gentleman came into the flower shop where I worked, and it was called, what was the flower shop called?
So the landlord of the Blue Anchor came in?
A gentleman came in to the flower shop where I worked, and he said, it was early in the morning, and he said, would you make a really nice bouquet for my wife, because she works in we've got the Blue Anchor, which wasn't very far away from the shop where I worked, in this flower shop. And he said, it's our anniversary, and he said, I would like a nice bunch of flowers for her, because she works so hard in that bar for me. So I said, well, that's very nice. I was only young, and I said, oh, that's very nice. Kept thinking of my father would never think giving my mother a bunch of flowers. Anyway, we said yes. He said, well, make them as nice as you can, and could you give them to her about 5 to 5, because that's when she opens up the bar, and she gets up because she sleeps in the afternoon because of the long hours in the bar in the evening. So he said, would you do that? So we said, yes, that was perfectly all right. So he said, make 5 to 5. So I said, yes, that'd be all right. And my manageress said, yes, that'd be all right. I said, she always called me now. She says, I'll send now a cut along with a lovely bouquet and it'd be really lovely. So he said, thank you so much. He said, because my wife, he said, works so hard for me. So I thought that was rather nice of the man, rather nice for the husband to say that. And anyway, 5 to 5 come, and she, what's her name, had all the bouquet ready, and she said, go on now, she always called me now, she said, go and take them up to the Blue Anchor. So I said, okay, and it was about 10 to 5, I would have said, 10 to 5, and she said, nip along with them. Wasn't very far. Anyway, I got up there, and as I was going, it wasn't very far, but anyway, as I got up there, and the siren went, the air raid siren, and I looked up at the sky and thinks, oh, damn. And I knocked the door, and she says, oh, thank you. I said, well, your husband said you deserve the flowers because you work so hard. And she said, did he really say that? I said, yes, he did. He said, you work so hard for me and she deserves the best of the nicest flowers. So I said, well, there you are. There's your flowers. And then the siren was going. I said, oh, my goodness, the siren's going. Oh, my goodness. So I flew. And, of course, as I rushed down, because it was only 5 minutes away from the shop, really, 5, 10 minutes, something like that. Anyway, I rushed, and the bomb came down and killed her, and Blue Anchor went up. The pub went up, and she never got the flowers. Well, she got the flowers, but she never enjoyed them. She got killed, and the Blue Anchor was shambles. So I got away just in time when the bomb came. I saw the German plane. I heard the roar, and I looked back and looked up, and there was the German, and I thought, oh my God, swastikas. And I ran and shouting swastikas all the time. And I flew into the shop, and the bomb came down on the Blue Anchor.
Okay, we'll cut it there then, Mum, because thank you very much, because that is actually quite a massive file that Ben's got on his computer.